Assassin's Creed Valhalla is getting a whole second year of post-launch content, kicking off with the Crossover Stories DLC that sees Odyssey's Kassandra and Valhalla's Eivor meet. But the first major expansion for Year 2 is Dawn of Ragnarok, in which Eivor witnesses Havi's adventures during the earliest days of one of the most well-known moments of Norse myth. In the following video, we go over everything that we learned about Dawn of Ragnarok during a preview event. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Dawn of Ragnarok takes place after the events of the Asgard and Jotunheim Sagas, so if you haven't gotten that far in Assassin's Creed Valhalla and don't want to be spoiled, this is your final warning to pause this video and come back later. Don't worry, we'll still be here. The Asgard and Jotunheim Sagas conclude with Havi, aka Odin, learning that there's no way for them to physically survive Ragnarok. However, they can undergo an experimental procedure to be born again. That's where Assassin's Creed sages come from. They're Isu from Havi's time that go on to be reborn as humans. Knowing that they and their allies will be reborn following Ragnarok, Havi faces the coming end of the world. Dawn of Ragnarok picks up there, with Havi seeking out their son, Balder, who has been kidnapped and imprisoned within the realm of the dwarves, a land that has been consumed by war ahead of Ragnarok. Havi's quest will see them once again face the frost giants of Jotunheim, but they'll go up against a more fiery foe too, Surtur. We still don't know what Eivor's motivations are in Dawn of Ragnarok, only that they turn to Valka to relive these memories of Havi after having vivid nightmares of Balder. Presumably, Havi has a message for Eivor embedded in their memories, but we'll just have to wait and see. If Dawn of Ragnarok is anything like Odyssey's myth-based expansion, The Fate of Atlantis, then Eivor could be in store for a major ramification or two. Dawn of Ragnarok is coming from Ubisoft Sofia, the lead studio for Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, Assassin's Creed Rogue, and Assassin's Creed Origins The Curse of the Pharaohs DLC. Giles Armstrong is senior scriptwriter for Dawn of Ragnarok. His other work includes being the lead writer on Destruction All-Stars and a writer for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Ubisoft Sofia told GameSpot via email that Dawn of Ragnarok takes inspiration from the Poetic Edda and many of the Norse sagas. The studio describes the entire expansion as a 35-plus hour experience, which takes place on a map that's about 1/3 the size of Valhalla's England. Though the expansion takes place after the events of the Asgard and Jotunheim sagas, you'll be able to jump into Dawn of Ragnarok even if you haven't completed those storylines. And although you might be a little lost as to what's going on, Ubisoft Sofia told GameSpot that it has taken special care to make sure that new players will be just as engaged with the narrative as those who have completed Valhalla.
Asgard can wait.
As seen in the cinematic trailer for Dawn of Ragnarok, Havi will possess new elemental and supernatural powers in this expansion. They will have the power to command both ice and fire, as well as shapeshift. Regarding these new powers, Ubisoft Sofia told GameSpot, quote, "The new powers add a new aspect to the combat, but not only, they will alter the way players explore the world, sneak around, solve puzzles, and also fight. The armies of Muspelheim are dangerous and deadly. Being creatures of fire, players will quickly find themselves needing an edge over them. Sometimes they might need to mitigate some of the incoming damage, and use the power of Muspelheim to temporarily become immune to lava and flame. In other situations, players will need to be on the offensive and quickly shut down the enemy. In all cases though, players should be on the lookout for changing the powers acquired in the Huga Rip as the battleground evolves." End quote. The Huga Rip is the main new gameplay mechanic in Dawn of Ragnarok. As its name suggests, it allows you to rip away and acquire the powers and abilities of others. It can only store up to 2 abilities at once though, so you'll have to be strategic in how you craft Havi's build. Some abilities are aimed at stealth, while others are more combat or navigation focused. When designing this new mechanic, Ubisoft Sofia told GameSpot that it had 2 goals for the Huga Rip: to provide players the agency to play how they wanted, and to embrace the fantasy of playing as a god who gains power by stealing it from their enemies. Ubisoft Sofia wrote, quote, "We wanted to really make a difference in all players' gameplay, no matter if they like face-to-face combat, stealthily taking out the opposition, exploring the realm of the dwarves in search of the dwarves' ancient secrets and mystery, or solving puzzles to get the valuable treasure. The powers will let Odin reach inaccessible locations, give them new stealth opportunities, let them traverse the world in a different manner, and lay devastation on the forces of Jotunheim and Muspelheim. Activating the powers costs Hugur. In Old Norse, the term roughly means the spirit, the mind, and thoughts of living beings, or their life force. All living things carry it, and Odin can refill it by defeating enemies, animals, draining it from Hugar blooms, or even sacrificing some of their own life for Hugar at shrines of Yggdrasil." End quote. Beyond the abilities already mentioned, Havi will also be able to imbue their weapons with freezing effects and raise defeated enemies from the grave as allies. If the cinematic trailer is any indication, Havi will be able to teleport to arrows they fired as well. Outside of the story, Dawn of Ragnarok will include plenty of optional content too, such as a battle arena that's run by a Valkyrie where you can take on different kinds of combat trials. If you're wondering how Havi's gender is handled in Dawn of Ragnarok, it's basically the same as it was in Valhalla. In a statement to GameSpot, Ubisoft Sophia said, quote, "In Dawn of Ragnarok, players will experience a continuation of Eivor's story. The rules under which the Animus operates remain the same, and players will be free to decide whether they want to play with a female or male character, or ultimately let the Animus choose the stronger memory stream." End quote. We also asked Ubisoft Montreal, lead developer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, why the latest mainline game is getting so many post-launch expansions as opposed to immediate sequels. Wrath of the Druids and Siege of Paris are both each 7 to 10 hours long, and Dawn of Ragnarok clocks in at 35 hours. You could argue all three are expansive enough to be combined as a whole new game that's a follow-up to Eivor's story in Valhalla. Ubisoft Montreal could have gone for an Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Revelations approach, but chose not to. In response, Ubisoft Montreal emailed back to say, quote, "To be honest, it's a question that we asked ourselves as well. For the team in general, this felt like the most cohesive way to give this offering to the players. The team has made efforts to have all content be more accessible to players, expansions included, so they can explore the world of Valhalla not unlike a theme park. We wanted players to be able to choose which saga they embarked on, be it in England, Ireland, Francia, and now the realm of the dwarves. Expansions 1 and 2 focused more on the Viking facets of Valhalla and exploring Eivor as a character under different situations. Now, Dawn of Ragnarok feels like the other side of the coin, where we go deeper into the Norse mythology and more so into Odin Havi's backstory. And while we have focused on giving players the ability to play all the content in the order they see fit, we also felt it was important to still have these offerings connected. One experience is complementary to the other. Given how important Norse mythology was to Viking everyday life, we felt Dawn of Ragnarok needed to be included in Assassin's Creed Valhalla." End quote. Dawn of Ragnarok is scheduled to release as paid DLC on March 10th. Be sure to subscribe to GameSpot to stay informed on Assassin's Creed, and be notified when we post previews like this one. If open world games like Assassin's Creed are your thing, and you're wondering how 2022 is going to shape up, you can check out our preview for Forspoken right now. But before you leave, let us know in the comments where you think Valhalla should go next in its second year of post-launch content. Do you think Ubisoft is going to stick to Havi for the rest of 2022, or will we see Eivor's story get some further development as well?